Do you have pain in your Achilles tendon when you jump, play basketball, or even after activity? You may be dealing with Achilles tendinopathy. In today's video, we're going to go over all things regarding Achilles tendinopathy, the symptoms, and some of the treatments. My name is Dr. Marco Lopez, Doctor of Physical Therapy and Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist and co-founder of the Basketball Doctors. So let's just jump into it. What is the Achilles tendon? So the Achilles tendon is the strongest tendon in our body. It goes from the heel to our calf. So it attaches the calf muscle to the heel through that tendon. And the calf muscle is composed of three muscles. Well, two major ones that everyone knows about, the gastroc and the soleus, and the other one is the plantaris. So all these muscles connect to that tendon, which connects from that muscle to that calcaneus bone. And the whole purpose is that it allows us to plantar flex our foot, meaning push off our foot, go up on our tippy toes. And that plays a huge role when you're doing any activity such as basketball, running, because every time you're running, you're pushing off and going up on your toes to jump. So it has a lot of this energy storage and release. So meaning you also, when you land, it's also absorbing the force, and when you jump, you're producing the force. So it's huge on that energy absorption and energy production when you're jumping, running. And if you want to learn more about Achilles tendon, we have a great video. Click the link in our description. We're going to go all things on the Achilles tendon. But that's just a quick, brief overview of the Achilles tendon. So what is Achilles tendinopathy? We went over the Achilles tendon. So the tendinopathy is actually degeneration of the tendon. And it usually happens with this chronic overuse. So over time, the tendon just gets degenerative in nature. It's not tendinitis where we have inflammation. It's more degeneration of the tendon itself. And there's two different types of tendinopathies. So one is more the insertional tendinopathy, where the tendinopathy happens at the heel. That's where you have your pain, right at the heel where the tendon goes in. The other one is non-insertional, and it's usually more in the middle. The biggest thing is more the insertional is usually more the older individual. The non-insertional is the more active, but honestly, it all depends on different factors, but those are the two common ones that you'll see, more in the middle of the tendon or right where the tendon inserts in the heel, right at the very bottom. So now you guys know what tendinopathy is and the two types of tendinopathy. The next step is, how do you know if you have tendinopathy or not? So some of the symptoms that are in relation to tendinopathy are, in the morning, you might feel stiffness or pain. Also, what happens is the tendon actually gets thickened. It almost looks like it's inflamed, but it's just thickened. It's not as skinny as your other tendon. Another thing is pain when you're doing your activities. So when you're running, jumping, you feel the pain at the insertional site. Remember how we mentioned the two types, insertional and non-insertional, or more in the middle part of your tendon. And it's more strictly in the tendon, not so much in the calf muscle. So you'll feel that pain in that bottom of the heel or right in the middle of the tendon. And it's usually, when you're running, jumping, not so much lifting weights, but more with that energy store release when you're jumping, running, also going down the stairs. That puts a lot of stress on the tendon itself. What are some of the risk factors? People always say, like, how can I prevent Achilles tendinopathy from occurring? What are some of the things that I need to be doing? So some of the risk factors are, one, decreased calf strength. So there's been a lot of studies showing that decreased calf strength leads to sometimes Achilles tendinopathy. Another thing, and the most important thing, honestly, is the overuse. So a lot of the times is we have to think about this tendon as having a certain amount of capacity. So imagine this is like the funnel of the tendon. So what happens if we put too much activity through that funnel, it's not going to be able to go all the way down. So what happens is that the tendon gets irritated, and then if you do this over time, it gets irritated to the point that we have degenerative issues in the tendon. So the biggest risk factor is overuse, doing too much too soon over a period of time. So it's not so much like this weekend I went to go play basketball and I played 10 games. That's going to give you more tendinitis, an acute episode. We're talking about, hey, I just started playing this pickup men's league, and I also added another league. So I'm playing 2 games a week for the next 4 to 6 weeks, and I haven't been playing any basketball in the past month. That's usually where we talk about overuse and a risk factor for tendinopathy. Another factor is more like the biomechanical issue. So sometimes what happens is we have limited dorsiflexion range of motion, so we're not really going through the ankles full motion, so that puts a little bit more stress on our tendon. Another thing too is sometimes when we see is one foot over pronates versus the other, and it's just more biomechanical in nature. So that's why we want to see how you do a calf raise, how you jump, how you run, because there might be some big difference between your left and your right that might be not being as efficient for your Achilles tendon, and that's what might lead to that Achilles tendinopathy. All right guys, now that we know the symptoms, some of the risk factors, we're just gonna jump into treatment. So when it comes to treatment, a lot of times people think we have to be resting, but in reality, we have to be working that tendon. Tendons love load, they wanna be strengthened. So we really wanna start working on, one, some isometrics early on, help decrease the pain. Two, working through that full motion of that calf muscle, so going through those calf raises, full up and down. And then another one is also just slowly adding in jumping progressions. And we have all these types of exercises in our Achilles tendon rehab program. Click the description below. It's a great program if you're dealing with Achilles tendinopathy that's gonna show you step by step on how to get back to sport. Because the biggest thing we see is that a lot of people just do isometrics, they feel good and they go back to sport, but you have to go through the whole spectrum. Isometrics, eccentrics, the full actual exercise itself, and then going into some jumping progressions, because we mentioned, the Achilles tendon plays a huge role in jumping, landing, so you have to have those little low-level progressions of hopping, two-legged plyos in order to withstand the activity when you go back to basketball. And another thing too is just modify your activity early on. You don't have to completely rest, but just modify it. That way you're not overdoing it. So you want to modify it a little bit and then add in more rehab. So just to kind of recap guys, Achilles tendinopathy, degeneration of the tendon. There's two types, insertional, non-insertional. Insertional is at the heel, non-insertional is more in the middle of the tendon. The biggest symptoms is you'll have pain in those spots when you're doing your activity. Usually also some thickening of the tendon. So it's gonna be a little different in appearance versus your non-injured tendon. We also will see that you'll have sometimes some soreness or stiffness after playing or in the morning in your Achilles tendon. And then in regards to risk factors, avoid trying to do too much too soon. Chronic overload over time, doing too much over a period of time is gonna really flare up that tendon. And then in regards to treatment, our Achilles tendon rehab program is great for any athlete dealing with this. If you guys have any questions regarding Achilles tendinopathy or any other topics you guys want us to cover, comment below. If you like this video, hit the like button, share this video with friends and family. We are the Basketball Doctors. Let's ball for life.